From the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today, I'm very pleased to bring with me CEO of Brand Iron and Brand Champion, Michael, who is an expert in consulting and marketing for like big brands. And he has also experience in actually like fundraising, helping startups. So Michael, thank you very much for being with me on the show today. Can you please like tell us a little bit more about yourself? If I missed anything, you can correct me also as well.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. First, let me start by saying thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I run a company called Brand Iron, and we're a traditional, what we call branding and marketing agency with a little bit of different twist. And I think why don't I start with a little bit of my background. So I've been in the business now for 30 years or so. And what I did originally was I had an advertising marketing agency and built that up. And before, kind of when the .com days were getting heated up, we decided we wanted to position ourselves to potentially get acquired. And so we started working with a lot of technology companies. And we had a bunch of technology companies that was the majority of our portfolio. And one of our clients got acquired as a part of an IPO roll-up, and they said, hey, you've been running our brand and all these different components for us. We'd like you to consider selling your firm and coming to work for us. Nice. So I did. I sold my firm. I was part of this .com. I ran our national brand. One of the things I didn't understand at the time that was going to become one of my main goals or main task was to be able to put together what we call analyst presentations, reporting on our monthly and quarterly results and selling that message. And we not only put together, the very beginning of what a pitch deck truly looks like or a cap raise deck. At that time, it wasn't for raising money. We already had money. And so it was, where we're putting our message or our analyst presentation to analysts that are covering our stock and the investment banking houses that are already invested in us or interested in investing in us and putting more money with us. And so I had to really understand the brand story, understand what we call the financial story, and be able to help package that and be able to put it in a manner where it's easy for everybody to understand everything about our company. So I served a couple of years doing that job, and I went back out on my own again and started up Brand Iron now 23 years ago now. And I said, there's a market here to be able to brand and package those pitch decks. And so now we've got a website called capraisedeck.com. It's a great entry point. We help our clients not only put together a pitch deck or a capital raise deck or what we call a management presentation or an analyst presentation, depending on what stage they are, whether they're raising capital as a total startup or they're what we call a small and emerging business and they want to raise capital to get to the next plateau, or they're a large business, they're just trying to raise capital or get support to be able to get to the next plateau or get acquired or go public or anything like that. And so part of what we do is we help work with our clients on how do they package that message. I say it's like a story. So how do we say, what are the main exciting points that we want to communicate and convey within this story? And then how do we put these different value points and a value proposition into different chapters of the book or the story or the deck? And then how do we put together what we call a really compelling and strong financial story? And what does that look like? And so how do we put together all that component as well too, and weave this all into a nice tight presentation most of the time in these decks, in these pitches, you get about, half an hour to an hour. So if you've got an hour long meeting, we'd like to say, let's put together like 25 to 30, like about 25 slides. So that about a minute and a half per slide. So you'll have about 25 to 35 minutes worth of content, and you can use the rest of the time. Hopefully you've piqued their interest, you've got them engaged, and they're excited, and they want to ask you more questions. So it's our job. How do we package that story? How do we really highlight the advantages that we have, our value points and our value proposition? Do a really good job of communicating that financial story and putting together a nice, tight, crisp, and clear presentation that you can really present to potential investors or potential partners, whether it be to pitch your concept or raise capital. So we've been doing this now for dozens of years. I should say more than a dozen years. We've worked on hundreds of decks, and we've helped our clients raise more than $5 billion in capital on putting together a nice and compelling deck.
Wow, that's really, a very big achievement, I would say, Michael. Now, when we talk about like pitching to investors, like like the word pitching and the pitch elevator, we know where the story comes from. But for investors, it's different story, right? So,
Yeah,
like because these people usually they are busy people, they are like they don't have the time. So, what makes a successful pitch to an investor?
sure. I think there's multiple factors, right? So the first one is understanding, are you solving a particular problem? And if you're solving a particular problem, what is that problem and why isn't it getting addressed? And how is your technology or your company or your service or your product solving that particular problem? Or how is it enhancing something or making something better? And really
Mhm.
understanding that so you could clearly articulate what that wants to look like as well, too. So you've got to be able to have a hook at the very beginning of the deck that grabs their attention and say, there's this problem, we're solving this problem, or there's an opportunity, and based on what we've done and what we put together, we're creating this huge opportunity. And really, I think a lot of times people just pitch to pitch, and they don't understand the true story structure and how do you put together. It's like, it's like in storytelling. And when you read a good book, they have a setup at the very beginning of the book. They kind of lay out who the characters are. They lay out the high level story, and then start to lay out and tell this story. And they kind of tie all the loose ends together, and then they kind of have a strong close.
Mhm.
Well, I don't think very many entrepreneurs or companies or CEOs understand that this isn't about just telling people what you do, but telling people what you do, how you do it better. How do you craft and package this story? How do you make it compelling? How do you make it engaging? How do you capture their attention? How do you put together all the different supporting points in the story to be able to help support that claim or that problem solving or that opportunity? And then how do you show the growth and what the potential is? And how do you lay that in an effective way so they can look at it and say, wow, you've really thought this through. You understand the marketplace, you understand the competitors, you understand the niche, or you understand the problem or the challenge, or you understand the opportunity, and you've laid out a nice, tight, compelling story, and you understand the finances involved, you understand the investment involved, and you've done a really good job of laying out what the potential returns could be too, or how big or how you can grow. And then you've communicated that, and you can put together as well too, and that you understand, how you're going to be able to perform and what you're going to do with their capital, how you're going to deploy that capital, and the results you're going to produce on that capital. And how do you put all that together? And it's hard when you've got all these objectives within 25 slides, right? And so
Yes.
you've got to lay it out into an overarching story, define what the different chapters of that story are. And let's say you've got 6 chapters of the story. So you've probably only got like three to 4 slides for each chapter. And you've got to have a strong start or a strong introduction. You've got to have a compelling, why. what the challenge is, or what the opportunity is, or what problem you're solving. And you've got to kind of lay out, how you're going to be able to solve that, or create this opportunity, how you're going to roll it out, how you're going to take it to the marketplace, how you're going to get people to buy it, how you're going to people to, continue to use it or buy more of it. And then how you're going to be able to, what your team looks like to be able to effectively do this, what experience do they have? And you've really got to lay this out in a nice, compelling story. And that's what I'd say about 95% of the decks we see, and we see lots of decks, people asking for help all the time. And I'd say about 95% of them don't have a story. They just have content. And a lot of times, like I just got one the other day, it was 56 slides. Okay. And there's absolutely no story in it, but there's all this content. And I'm like, oh my God, it would take me hours to figure out what they're trying to communicate here. But you've got to make it. There's a saying I have, or when I went to school, they call it keep it simple, stupid, like in speaking class.
Yes.
You got to keep it simple. You got to make sure you could clearly articulate what the story is. You got to make sure you high level communicate what that is. You got to get them sucked in and engaged. You've got to get them excited to find out more. And then you got to be able to be prepared to be able to answer what those questions are, and back up and supplement, how do you solve their problems, or how do you answer their questions, and how do you all put that together in a nice, tight, compelling fashion within about this amount of time. So, because that's all you get one shot, and you got to make really good use of your time, and you got to make sure that people are excited about what you're presenting, or your idea, or your concept, or your business model, or the returns that you're producing, and that you suck them in and they get excited about it and they want to find out more. They want to find out how they can get involved.
Yeah. So, Michael, out of curiosity, what usually we see people doing, they know that pitch decks now are standardized. So they know like it should be in certain, let's say they start by the problem, maybe they have done some market research to just, if they are still in the seed stage, I would say.
Yeah.
And then they would come up with their solution, competition, and so on. So, for me personally, I sometimes, I don't like to be very rigid to the format. Like, don't you think that they need to have first kind of a hook, right? So
yes,
right. So
absolutely.
When I see the first slide, I need to be excited, and then they need to mention. So, what are the majority of the time the mistakes, I would say, or let's call them the challenges that you see founders, especially in the technology, because we are on the CTO show. So, what are the majority of the time the challenges that you see founders, or like these, maybe there are a couple of founders comes together to do the pitch when they are trying to do capital raising? And what have you seen worked actually in an effective way, when you work with them?
Yeah. Well, here's what I would say is, I'd say the majority of people overcomplicate the story, right? And they get so much in there, but they don't understand. It's really simple. You've got to be able to have, let's call it like your 30-second, we call it elevator pitch, right?
Right.
And you've got to be able to put that same concept into a deck. Who are you? What do you do? Why is this important? Why do I care? And why should I, find out more about this opportunity? But you've got to have that why. It's just like the whole Simon Sinek. It starts with why, right?
Right.
And so you've got to have that why right up front of, and here's what happens, especially on technology companies. They get into the weeds so much. They love their technology. They love their code. They love, all the different cool components of this. And really, at the end of the day, those things are nice to know. But if you can't effectively communicate in a nice, tight, quick fashion of what your why is right out of the gate, you lose them. And the people look at your deck, that you start to talk them, you start to present it, and you've lost them because you're in the weeds. You don't have that clear and concise aha moment at the very beginning of what it is you're doing and why does this make sense? What's the value proposition? And how big is the opportunity? And be able to put that in that story. I would say that the majority of especially in technology companies, it's there, that why, And what that value proposition is, it's there, but they're too sucked into their own company or their own technology. They have to step back. They have to look at, how do we simplify this? Can we put it into what I call 4 to 5 or 6 value points that are super compelling, that the everyday Joe, because the vast majority of these investors, yeah, they care about the code, they care about your intellectual property, they care about your, all these different components, but you've got to be able to, answer the questions of why this makes sense. Why is it different? Why is it better? What is the opportunity? How big is the opportunity? And you've got to suck them in at the very beginning. And so you can't lose sight of how do you take a step back? How do you look at what you've got? And how do you determine what's valuable and what will the investors care about? What will the market care about? And how do you identify that and put that into those value points that really has a really compelling value proposition that you can really sell to your potential investors?
Yeah, that's really very informative as well, Michael. Now, out of curiosity, is there any difference when, if I'm a founder today, is there any difference if I'm going to do my pitch in front of an angel investor versus a going a full-fledged VC or maybe a private equity? Is there any difference, in the format? Would be a difference in the way I should articulate my value proposition? And I'm asking this because you have this experience for a long time now.
Yeah. So here's how I view that is not really, okay? What the differences are is when you first develop a pitch deck, right? You're selling your concept and you're pitching your concept to whether it be strategic partners or to a potential, VC, let's call it, or friends and family round. You're pitching the pitch deck that's got that value point, those value points and the value proposition in there. And it may not have necessarily what we call the financial components or what we call the full financial story. It just may have a one slide to talk about high level overview about how this could, what type of results, what you could achieve and what you could spin off or produce. The difference is between a pitch deck with that one slide and the high level overview and a true capital raise deck is you drill down and you kind of expand that until, let's say, it's 4 to 6 slides and have a true financial story. And so that's the difference between a pitch deck where you're selling the concept and you're just seeing or gauging their interest if there's a potential interest in finding out more about the financial components of what you're doing. And that's the difference. And so I think most of the time I try to tell people you have a pitch deck and then you would have, quote unquote, a cap raise deck, and the difference is putting in not the one slide, but 4 to 6 slides that really spell out that full financial story. And what I mean by that is you're talking about, okay, if let's say it's an app or a SaaS product, and you're putting together these subscriptions and they pay monthly or they pay yearly or whatever, but you put together and you say, we're going to be able to get so many subscribers or so many downloads and so much usage, and that's going to spin off a monthly recurring revenue or annual recurring revenue of X. So the subscribers or seats turn into X revenue, and that revenue is the gross revenue. And then we have potentially a cost of goods sold or a margin number, and then we have an EBITDA number in there. And then what that looks like, we probably have a cash flow chart that says, here's the cash flow we're spinning out. And then we probably want to have in there as well, too, is what is the enterprise value that we think we're going to be able to build within this company and why it's attractive and why you want to start with this now and why, you want to be a part of this growth that really takes it to the next level. And so the big difference is on that is just, and probably most of these people want to see is a pitch deck and then the full cap raise deck and the financial story. But I want to bring up one other thing. I hate to send out a pitch deck. I hate to send out a cap raise deck. The first thing we recommend do is put together a teaser piece. And it's going to be like a 2-pager or 2-3 slides, super high level 50,000 foot view who you are, what you do, what you do, and how you're going to disrupt or how you're going to solve this problem or create this huge opportunity. And so you send that out, and the only purpose of that is twofold, or I shouldn't say only, but there's a couple. Is number one, gauge their interest level, right?
Right.
But the other thing you don't want to do is send the whole deck out, because I see it all the time. You send the whole deck and say, "Hey, we get it, we're not interested," and you never get the opportunity to meet with them face to face or be on a Zoom call or whatever, and really sell your concept or really sell your idea. And that's one of the huge mistakes we see is they go, "Yep, I sent them," and they never got back to me. Well, because they don't have any questions. You answered all the questions, and it's a great way for them to say no, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
so if you send them a teaser piece, and then you get them excited, you almost force them to meet with you, because they want to hear the pitch, and then it's your opportunity to really sell the concept, sell yourself, sell the team, sell the idea, sell how you're going to be able to create this and how you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
And there's the other component is not only you have to have a great product or a great company or a great service, you've got to have a great team. You've got to have passion. You've got to be excited about it. You got to be able to show that and be able to put together a teaser piece that kind of piques their interest and just gives them enough to want to be able to meet with you is everything, because you've got to be able to meet with people in order for them to be able to see and hear and understand what you've got. But also, here's the other big piece of it too, is I always tell people you've got to be able to anticipate the questions. Well, if you send the deck out, you don't know what their questions are. You don't get the opportunity to listen to it, hear it, and to be able to solve those objections, right? Well, if you send out a teaser piece and you get the opportunity to present it, you get the opportunity to handle any objections they're throwing at you. And so that's why I love not only the teaser piece, a pitch deck, a capital raise deck, and kind of have all these different components or tools in your tool shed, if you will, and have them ready to be able to help you accomplish this job. The other thing of it too is you've got to have, and it's amazing to me, I see all these decks all the time, and I try to find them online, and they don't even have a website. And then I go, how are you going to raise money? You don't even look like a real company yet. Maybe you could get away with that with your friends and family around, because you're meeting a one-on-one and they know you and they trust you. But if you're going to go outside of that sphere, you've got to have not only a tight deck, you've got to have not only a pitch deck, a tight teaser piece, but you also have to have your website that shows that you're credible, that you've updated your LinkedIn thing, and you're doing all these different components that they say, yep, these guys are real, they're credible, I can find them online, they're doing something right, they're invested in this. And so we feel a lot better about this and about them and their opportunity.
Yeah, great. So I think it comes again to something you mentioned earlier. It's about you have to tell this in a story way, because sending a pitch deck over email, like if I'm an investor and I receive, maybe they have good product, but I cannot see the energy. I cannot see, the right. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
say, okay, it's nice to have. And the second thing the second takeaway I took, like, it depends on the stage they are in the business. So, pre-seed phase is something, when they start to become the seed phase is something else, and probably maybe when they are pitching for, and this is the question I want to ask you, like, I think, like this, it's a continuous effort until either, the company is sold or maybe they go IPO, right?
Right. You're 100% right. And so what we see in that regard is we see all the time that they put together their framework of what their pitch presentation wants to look like, or their capital raise deck. And then once they start to present it, they get feedback, right? And they start to modify and adjust it, and they start to evolve and develop this thing, and really address what address the questions or modify it based on the feedback they're getting. And so I highly recommend that you don't have one deck and you stick to it the whole time. You've got to be able to learn, evolve, and grow, and make this thing more dynamic. So as you're refining this thing, you're understanding not only the chapters and the value points and the value proposition within the story, but you're really helping refine one that really sells, right?
Right. That's
So
correct.
yeah. And so the other thing I think you've got to do is you got to practice it. You've got to put together your deck and you've got to work on it with yourself or looking in the mirror and work on your presentation. And I tell people all the time, you got to know it. It can't be something you read. You've got to know it in your heart. You've got to be able to say, here's what we're doing. Here's our story. Here's the 4, 5, 6 value points. Here's the landscape of who we're competing against. Here's the opportunity or the challenge. And you've got to know that story in your head so it becomes conversational.
Right.
Just
Right.
like this conversation, right?
100%. And one thing I don't remember where I read it in one of the books where also they mention you need of course to be passionate about it and you need to be able to explain it. They sometimes they even put a framework like think if you want to write a tweet about it, right, or you want to write a short post about it, so where
Yes.
you can really catch the attention what you are doing, what you are trying to achieve, and you need to show this passion. Now my question, Michael, is okay. Now, how important is because you're in marketing as well? How important in all this to also put effort in building the brand? And when I say build the brand, I'm not talking only about like B2C products. I'm not talking about something, but even in B2B businesses, how important to establish yourself as a brand once you are into the business phase.
Well, I don't even think it's that down in the business phase. I think having that brand and conveying what you do is huge, even in the capital raise side, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that you're effectively communicating and providing information about the marketplace and potential the opportunity or the challenges. You're providing, whether it be blogs or videos or social media posts, and you're really educating the marketplace about how big this challenge is or how big the opportunity is. And what if you had this, or what if you could do this, or what if you could solve this problem, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's how you really build up demand, even on the capital raising phase, right? So having that brand and having those value propositions that value points in the value proposition and putting together content that really position you with credibility and authority and really say, this is where we're at. This is where we want to go. Here's a really good example. I know, um, you know, um, um, Meta just rolled out Threads this week, right? Well, you've been
Right.
hearing for a while that there's this thing coming, right? And it
Yes.
was this is going to come. It's the application killer. It's going to kill Twitter off. Well, they've teased this for a while, and we've known this is coming. And then all of a sudden, they make this big announcement this last week, and you better get ready because this is gonna totally change everything. Well, they roll it out and they announce it, and this is just what yesterday when they rolled out, and then within the first 24 hours, Zuckerberg comes out and says, "Oh, we already have 30 million users." Well, it
Yeah.
just didn't happen without teasing it and building that brand and community, putting together content and kind of laying the groundwork for a successful launch. Or you need to do the same thing, or laying out the groundwork, building that brand, putting together your communications, blogs, your videos, working on your niche market or your industry, and kind of laying out the groundwork to be able to roll that product or your service or whatever out into the marketplace. And it's
Right.
so important. It's not even consumer. I just use that a consumer example. Probably B2B is even more important because you've got this small niche potentially. And how do you go out there and get people to understand what you're doing and what you're developing and what you put together? And how do you communicate what, effectively and build up that excitement? So when you go to talk to them about raising money or pitching it or becoming a partner of theirs, they're like, "Oh, I heard about this. I really want to find out more."
Right.
And so
Right.
building that brand, not only from a look and feel, but developing your messaging platform, your value points, your value proposition is critical across the board, not just in your deck, but on your website, in your videos, in your blogs, in specific announcements potentially. It's critical to be able to build that brand, be able to effectively communicate, what is your value points and how's this really going to help? And be able to put all that together and effectively build that brand, build that messaging platform, and position yourself appropriately in the marketplace is critical. And here's one thing I want to say about that, because if you don't take charge of your brand, and if you don't take charge of your messaging, guess who will do it for you? Your competitors, right?
Exactly. I love this, Michael. The reason I loved it because it's not only good for the brand awareness itself. I think it's especially for people who are in the startup phase. It's kind of also a market validation for them because when they start to put these efforts and maybe they start to see all these requests coming in because they are doing, as you said, social media posts, they are doing videos, I don't know, like they are on
Yeah.
multiple blogs. So this is might be a very good way, actually an excellent way also to see if what they have put in their pitch deck as a market demand, they have validated it. So this is really a cool methodology, that they can use it as well. Now,
So one of the
of
things I
course,
want to say on
yeah.
that, when we're talking about the brand and we're talking about marketing, here's the other thing I don't think people really understand too is you've got to have a marketing plan that's going to be targeting towards investors. You've got to be able to do your research and know, who would potentially invest in this type of product or this type of technology, and how do you build relationships with them? Do you go after investment banking firms? Do you have to go people within the industry? Do you have to go after, would a competitor, would you, if you've got a relationship, would they be interested in partnering with you on this type of thing? So you've got to have a plan of who you're going to target, how you're going to approach them, how you're going to educate them, how you're going to engage with them to be able to set up that opportunity, set up an appointment to be able to you send them a teaser, set that appointment so you can pitch your presentation. And you've got to have a marketing plan. It's like any other marketing plan. And people don't understand, oh, well, you got a debt together. And I go, well, okay, great. What do you do now? Right?
Yes.
You've got to have a plan. You got to know who you're going to meet with. You've got to understand who plays in this space, who likes these type of opportunities or this type of technology, right? And, let's even say within the app world, well, there's B2B apps, there's B2C apps, there's things in transportation or food. I mean, who likes what? And if you understand that, who are the major players within these spaces and that, or within the particular industry, helps you significantly to understand how you're going to be able to, approach these people and what are the mediums that you need to utilize. What's the content you need, whether it be an email or a blog or a video or, what is it? And you've got to kind of lay out, here's our targets. Here's the mediums we're going to utilize. Here's the emails or the phone calls or the teaser pieces, and kind of lay this out. It's just like any other thing. It may take 7 touches, 10 touches to be able to say, oh yeah, Mehmet looked at my stuff and now I'm going to gauge his interest. Well, it may take me pinging you 7, 8, 10 times before you say, yeah, you keep peppering me, and I really totally appreciate it. And yeah, now I'm ready to meet with you and see what you've really got.
Yes, 100%. Now, the question is, Michael, how to continue on this from marketing perspective to scale the business? What they should do?
I tell people you've got to first off, I love technology. So I love marketing automation platforms or like a CRM marketing automation combination, whether it be like a SharpSpring or a HubSpot or an Active Campaign, any of these types of things. You've got to have a database platform that you can house all your prospects, your clients, your targets, put it all in there that you can track and measure the effectiveness of and see your interaction and gauge the effectiveness of every single thing you're doing. And it's just like I talked about the plan towards investors. Well, now what you've got to do is say, we've got targets. Here's our targets up here. We've got a technology CRM marketing automation platform. We're going to use or lay out all these different, what we call touch points, or what does all this look like, whether it be an email, whether it be a blog or a video, or we post it on LinkedIn, or we post it on this industry or trade site. And so we could be able to track and measure the effectiveness of all the different activities, as well as the effectiveness of our efforts or our spend, and look like and say, here's what we're doing. How do these, whether it be email campaigns, whether these Google AdWords campaigns, or these LinkedIn campaigns, or what are these, cold email campaigns? What do they look like? And what are the results on that? So you could tweak and modify and adjust and find out what really works and what doesn't work. And I like laying out a plan of here's the targets and here's the technology, here's the different touch points of the mediums we're going to utilize to get to these people, and then being able to have the insights to be able to track and measure the effectiveness along the way. And based on who those targets are, you've got to be able to realize and understand is what's the best and most efficient way to be able to reach them, and how many times are you going to have to touch them, and over what period of time is it going to happen within, to be able to build that relationship and get them to engage and start to have a conversation with them about potentially buying your product or service.
Now, as we close to the end, the question I want to ask you, Michael, and coming back to the stages. Now, the final stage of any startup or any company is maybe they want to sell the company. So the founders would want to sell the company and do an exit. So what are, from your experience, the way to position a company to get acquired?
That's a great question. So same thing again, you understand what that outcome is you're trying to get accomplished, right? So, and it's like another marketing effort, right? So in a situation like this, you say, okay, well, is it going to be a strategic buyer, somebody in your industry that may wants to buy you because they like your technology, or they like your customer base, or they like how you do business? So it could be a strategic buyer. It could be a financial buyer, would it be a private equity firm or something like that. So you've got to understand who are your potential buyers, right? And then how are you going to build relationships with them and build out your network? You may want to consider, do I need to hire an investment banking firm to be able to represent me to be able to go after that as well too? Or are you trying to build these relationships and do it yourself as well too? And then you've got to say is, all right, well, how am I going to build these relationships with these strategic buyers or these financial buyers? And can I do it myself, or are we going to hire a firm to work with us and help us do that? And instead of putting together a pitch deck or a capital raise deck, you're going to have what we call like a management presentation or a pitch deck as well that talks about why this is a great opportunity and why this makes sense and why you want to buy us. And so it's just a different type of pitch, but it could be is, here's how this synergy is going to work together, or here's how our technology is going to plug in with yours, and here's how our customer base is really going to expand your customer base. And so it's just a different type of message and story that you're telling to a different target audience.
Right. Yeah, that's really also, I think it's each part of this journey would be exciting by itself. So, the fundraising in the early stages, then maybe raising additional funds down the road, and then the end would be by an exit probably. So this is really an exciting journey, I would say, if someone, and yeah, guys, you should dream big, right? So go out and do it.
And you've got to understand that story, whether it be at the beginning of a pitch deck or a capital raise deck. Same thing on when you're exiting. You've got to understand that story and why this makes sense and where's the value. And we get hired all the time by these private equity firms to help them put together a presentation, work with their teams so they could, increase their multiples, right? Increase the returns of what they've invested and be able to maximize that return. Yeah. And so you've got to be able to understand that story, got to understand why it makes sense and where's the value here, so you could leverage them and maximize the returns that you're going to be able to get, from getting acquired.
Yeah. Michael, just for the sake of someone might the question come to their mind, when we say exit, it might be also an acquisition, right?
100%. Yeah. And in fact, the majority of exits are going to be, or are going to be from getting acquired.
Okay. Yeah.
1% through going public. All the other ones you're selling or getting acquired by a competitor or getting bought, depending on how big you are, or you could get acquired by a financial buyer. But I would say the vast majority of them are going to exit through getting acquired.
Yeah, because I mean, I work for tech companies as well myself. I mean, US based companies, and like following on other part of the world. So usually, one of three things happens: either they go IPO, they get acquired by a bigger player, or sometimes we see some mergers, very few times, not too much, or we see them bought by a private equity firm or something similar. Michael, before we close, anything you wished I asked you actually, or anything you want to talk about?
I always say is understanding what you're trying to get accomplished with your deck, with your marketing, with your brand. Start with the end in mind. Okay. Marketing and branding isn't just about creative and logos and cool websites. It's about branding and your positioning your company to help you achieve your desired outcomes. So if you understand what you're trying to get accomplished and what you're trying to do with your company, with your capital raise deck, or with what you're trying to get accomplished, if you want to sell your company, understand not only where you want to be, but what you have to do to brand it and position it so you can help you achieve these goals and objectives. So that's what I try to tell people. If you understand what you're trying to get accomplished, how do you put together a brand? How do you put together messaging, whether it be in a deck or your logo or your website or in your marketing, that's going to resonate? So how do you package that story in the different mediums, and how do you effectively track and measure so you can ensure that you're getting towards your desired outcomes? And if you put together that plan and you put together the brand and all the different steps along the way, that'll help you significantly in getting you to where you want to be.
Yeah, that's really great advice, I would say, Michael. Michael, finally, where people can find more about you and your company?
Yeah, it's Michael Doyle, Michael Doyle on LinkedIn, or you can look up brandiron.net. And that's where you can find me, either on LinkedIn or brandiron.net. That's my company.
Okay, great. I will make sure that I will add, all the links to the episode description. Well, Michael, thank you very much for really, I enjoyed this discussion today with you. Very informative and tons of information, I would say. So if anyone who's listening or watching this episode looking for fundraising and, all the journey that we talked about with Michael today, so this episode is indeed for you. And as usual, the way I end each episode, I again ask you for your feedback, or if maybe you have a question, so you can find me again on LinkedIn, Twitter. My email is also available in the podcast description as well. You can write me directly if you are interested to be a guest, same like Michael was a guest today. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. We can do the arrangement for this. And as you can see, I went global. You can be in any part in the world. So majority of my guests are in the US. I have some guests from the UK. I have guests even from New Zealand, from Australia, everywhere in the world. So it doesn't matter. If you have something interesting, we can discuss it on the show. Please don't hesitate to reach out. And at the end, thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll meet up again in a new episode. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hit that subscribe button, share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.